Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Chicago online worship. I am Christine Harrell, a member of the congregation, and I'm glad to be your worship associate today. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, and the mission to grow our souls and heal the world. Whether you are joining us online for the first time, or you've worshiped with us thousands of times, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. No matter how much money is in your pocket, no matter if you have a PhD, a GED, or no degree, you belong here. We are people of many races and beliefs. We are people of many genders and sexual orientations. All of you is sacred. All of you is welcome. You belong here. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we must distance ourselves physically, but we can stay connected. In addition to weekly worship on our YouTube channel, follow us on our Facebook page for fresh pastoral content during the week. We have several small groups meeting by phone and Zoom video conferencing for both connection and church business. To get involved, check your weekly email blast or email the church office for more information. Contact information is on our website. If the economic hardships of the coronavirus are affecting you, the church is at your side. Our ministers can refer you to resources from the minister's discretionary fund to the members and friends of this congregation. For more information, just contact the church office to be in touch with Reverend Teri or Reverend David. Throughout today's service, you can interact with one another through the comments section. Simply log into your YouTube account or create a new one to leave comments, reactions, and to share prayer requests. I invite you now to be present to this moment. Let us enter into this service together as the prelude begins.
Abide with me, fast falls the eventide, the darkness deepens, still with me abide, when other helpers fail and comforts speed. Help of the helpless, oh, abide with me.
Swift to its close ebbs out life's little day. Earth's joys grow dim, its glories pass away. Change and decay in all around I see. O thou who changes not, abide with me. I fear no foe with thee at hand to bless. Ills have no weight and tears no bitterness.
I'm the Reverend Teri Schwartz, Senior Co-Minister here at the First Unitarian Church of Chicago. Today's worship will explore death and mortality, and hopefully provide some material to help us, the living. While there is no graphic content, given the events of the pandemic and uprisings for racial justice and pervasive loss, you might be grieving at this time. If this topic is not appropriate for you today, know you are free to let this worship service pass you by. Here on our YouTube channel, if you click on the button Playlists, you'll find a list of inspiring and comforting music from our music director, Jeff Hamrick, lighthearted tours of building with Reverend David and Pilot the Church Dog, events around Chicago, and other content that might suit the needs of your heart this morning and connect you to your church community. Let us enter worship. At first, we measured in days and single digits, then weeks. When will it end, we asked. We thought about it in months then. Deaths in 4 digits, then 5. When will it end? Now we have started to think of a year or more. Deaths in 6 digits. When will it end, we ask. We are in a season of pandemic, a season longer than the turning of spring to summer, of summer to fall, of fall to winter. Will it end then? We wonder. The Civil War was won, but not all slaves were free. When will it end, they asked. Juneteenth, and those slaves were free, but with no work in the new Jim Crow South. When will it end, they asked. The Civil Rights Movement brought new rights for Blacks and people of color, yet racism found new ways to oppress overtly and covertly and lethally. When will it end, we asked. And Black Lives Matter, cell phone footage, uprisings, yet continued police brutality and white supremacy from small town to the Oval Office. When will it end, we ask. It will end when we make it end. When we demand justice so unyieldingly that the only prudent political path is to oblige to the power of people who demand justice. The uprisings for racial justice, the reopenings bit by bit of our society amidst the pandemic, they will not be as things were before. But this is true of any season we pass through in life, be it a season of the weather or seasons of the soul. The rings on a tree show years of plenty, years of drought. We will always be marked by this season, however long it lasts in calendar time, however long it lasts in time of the heart, however long it takes to develop a vaccine, however long it takes for true freedom to come at last. There was a beginning, there is a middle, and there will be an end to this season of pandemic, to the season of violence, though we know not the hour. We tend the flame of our ancestors that we might pass it forward. And today, as we light our chalice, it is a reminder that another season will come. Come, let us worship. I invite you now to join in the reciting of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I invite you now to greet one another warmly in the chat box of friendship.
Good morning. At this time, please welcome those who are young at heart, and your furry friends to the computer for A Time for All Ages. Thank you. This morning, I wanted to focus on our second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Within that, I want to focus mostly on just that human relations part, for the way in which we relate to others has changed so much over the past few months. For kids, like everybody else, this change came along so fast and with so many other changes that they might not know completely what to do with it. Adults at home without kids might assume that young folks are adapting more swiftly than they are. Kids are really good with computers and they're glued to their phones so much anyway, so kids' ability to connect with friends and keep going shouldn't be that much of a problem, right? But kids are reporting that they're getting just as burned out as adults, using computers for class, for schoolwork, as one of their primary forms of entertainment. Man, that's a lot. By the time social time rolls around, it's just a lot for them, like it is for everyone. Over the past few weeks during Time for All Ages, we've talked a little bit about focusing on activities that go beyond screen time, such as self-care, such as connecting with nature, and those things are great for the self. But humans, and especially teens, are social creatures. This is not news to any parent or to anybody who is a teen. So let's talk about social interaction for what it is, a need and not a want. Sometimes it takes an emergency for us to understand the full value of what relationships are at any age at all. So how are people finding ways to connect that do work for them? Well, one is by offering friends a space for understanding, and that means not necessarily expecting to spend the same amount of time connecting with friends, but quality over quantity here. Sometimes social connections are the small things that mean a lot, like the quick hello, I'm fine text that you send to your best friend, or even the hey, I cannot talk right now, but let's make some time later. When we do have the capacity, folks are still connecting using a myriad of ways, technological and not, whether that means phone calls, using social media, video hangouts, Netflix parties, socially distant visits, driving by each other's houses and honking the horn, or even, of course, right here and right now. Hi guys. It's important to look at those activities as not a break from other things that you're doing, but an investment in what matters most. Again, it has always been that way. We just didn't always look at it that way. The church community is also here to support those efforts. In the month of June, I'm going to be organizing a pen pal letter exchange program. I'll pop a link into the chat. Please note that the sign up is first come, first serve, but I'll pair up as many people as I am able, and you should note whether you prefer to be paired with someone who is in your age bracket with the church, or whether you prefer, if available, to be paired with someone who is younger or older. I'll make those options there. So, those who do sign up should be prepared to send about 3 letters to their buddy throughout the month of June or into the first week of July. If you're somebody who runs late for stuff, like I do, that's okay. But we'll be cutting it off at the 4th of July. Also, the RE program has been hosting youth and family hangouts on Wednesday nights over the past few weeks. For summer, that's going to shift days and it's going to shift times. So instead of being Wednesdays, you can look for us twice a month on Friday nights for an all-ages family UU time with a separate youth hangout option to follow. The church is here to support you, and we are here to support each other. I am so thankful for each of you and what you bring to this community. Thank you for your continuing important work of keeping care of you, your family, and your friendships. Thank you.
Friends, will you join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation to breathe deep the breath of life and be here now? Our words for meditation this week are by the poet Dana Folds, called It Is Enough. It is enough right now to taste one moment of peace. Of course, I want more, but at least the door is open. It is enough to draw a conscious breath to let my hands relax, fingers releasing their tight grasp on things outside my control. It is enough to shed a layer of stress, as if taking off a jacket or a pair of too tight shoes. Ease of being has to start somewhere. This breath is my first step. Will you take a breath with me? And another. God, Spirit of life and love, called by many names, known in so many different ways, experienced that love larger than ourselves. Our prayer this morning is to be a people of memory and hope, a people first called home to ourselves, to remember who we are in all our own complexity, to remember and to keep us safe from all the snares and toils and traps of our own self, all those things inside our own head that prevent us from showing up to each other. Our hope, our prayer this morning is to let go of secret shames and private guilts that keep us locked in here instead of looking outward. Our hope and our prayer this morning is to let go of the anger, the resentments that we carry with us, to arrive back into the world again, seeing and meeting each other face to face. Our hope and our prayer is to set ourselves down, to have enough ease of being, to show up for each other, to meet each other as we really are, not our caricatures each of the other, but to meet together as people, face to face, even through a screen. Our hope, our prayer this morning is to get out of our own heads and be together. On this Father's Day, we remember fathers of all kinds, fathers by birth and fathers by choice. We remember the complexities of fatherhood and the difficulties of parenting. We remember those whose relationships were strong and those whose relationships were estranged and those whose relationships were just plain complicated. We say, with love and hope, a word of prayer for all the fathers in the world. Today we remember too Juneteenth. We remember that it took 2.5 years for news of liberation, for the fact of liberation, for the reality of liberation at last, to make it to those enslaved in Texas and become true for them. We're a people of memory and of hope, and we remember then and now that words on a page are no guarantee of freedom. They are hope and aspiration that take work to make real. We're a people of memory and hope. We remember that change is difficult and messy and complicated, and that freedom is coming, peace is coming, not merely the absence of a conflict, but the presence of justice. And on this Sunday, we affirm again that we will be peacemakers, a people committed to bringing justice into the world. Amen.
Tiptoe home to love, crawl in bed with fear, lead me where it becomes water, running towards a new plight, gets my face locked in, searching for me in shallow waters, never word, whoever cared, apathy drowned in muck, search for me in places I'm not there, running under oil-spilled stars, follow my mind, lead my black heart, which shines bright in my mind, or the North Star, holding hope to stand trial against myself, assign my worth. See, I have run for miles for this freedom, so-called eternal bliss. My life depends on this one wish. It doesn't mean I'll get it. My mind takes the back seat as I try to find my rhythm and beat my holy drum, while I'm stuck in this unholy war. And I'm shouting while standing in front of a crowd, crying and screaming out loud. Can nobody hear me? Love to see me fighting. And in darkness the rain is so loud. I'm not doing too well, not doing too well. No, not doing too well. Can you hear? Can you hear them screaming? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear us screaming?
How many times do we hear the phrase, "in these uncertain times"? Things are always uncertain, and coronavirus makes this more painfully apparent. The truth is, no one actually knows what's going to happen. The post-COVID world doesn't exist yet. It will only exist after we make it. How we behave will determine how many people will get sick, how we treat them, how we test them, how we trace them, if and when there is a vaccine, and how we take our own ethical and moral responsibility for the public health. But this is also a heavy moral burden on the individual. Each outing becomes a moral quandary. And now that restrictions are being eased, there's no longer a really clear sense of what is essential. We have to determine that, each and every one of us, based on the day, based on the conditions, and based on our own presumed risk factors. And so I find each time I leave the house to go somewhere, it's a moral quandary. Is this okay for a recreational stop at the grocery store just to get some ice cream and some strawberries and some extra milk? Or should I really wait and do just once a week so there's less potential virus transmission or risk of catching it? Perhaps I'm an asymptomatic carrier today. Perhaps I have an underlying condition that makes me high risk that is yet to be known. I can't know. It's uncertain. And this is the reality we've come to live with every day. And this uncertainty is even greater for our friends and neighbors who are people of color, be it across the hallway in the building, across the tracks, or across the country or world. Black, Indigenous, and people of color are bearing a disproportionate burden of the toll of this disease and loss due to systemic racism. The pandemic did not wait for a more convenient time. It did not wait for us to solve white supremacy, to end the reign of terror from slavery to Jim Crow, to the new Jim Crow, to police brutality that has been with us throughout. but it is all here, all now, right now. And while we may have grown tired of hearing in these uncertain times, nevertheless, it remains true. And so in this uncertainty, I began to wonder and ponder what is certain. And that old saw came to mind. The only thing certain in life is death and taxes. We got an extension on our taxes this year, but none of us know how many days we're granted on this earth. I don't know much about death, not having died myself, nor spoken to someone who has, but I know a few things. The mortality rate holds steady still at 100%. No one gets out of here alive, and that we are all terminal, every single one of us. Just some of us have more information about the how, the when of it. Perhaps it's always been on my mind in a way since I was young. I don't have any memory otherwise. My father was a first responder, and as long as I can remember, I knew every time he left for work that may be the last time I saw him again. That wasn't overly emotional or sentimental. It's just something I lived with. Death is like a guest in the house. You set up that spare bedroom in your mind for death, and you hope that he stays busy with Netflix. Some people do this by keeping death alive in their conversations. A colleague said, upon visiting her grandmother every time when she would say her goodbyes, she said, "You don't know what's coming. You might not see me again." Or that uncle that says, "This is my last Christmas," for 10 years in a row. But for most of us, most of the time, we keep death out of sight and out of mind. Have you ever heard a person say, "If I die, I want XYZ. If I die, I want to be cremated"? I've caught myself doing it, but it's never an if, it's a when. So I've wondered, what amidst this certainty might death have to offer us? And while this is no compensation for the difficult grief and loss around us, it is something that we can carry in our hearts as the living. As a minister, one of the privileges of the office is to tend to those entering their final days. And here at the First Unitarian Church of Chicago, in addition to tending to the dying, we tend to those who have already died by holding the remains of them in our crypt. Another privilege of the office of the minister is that I keep ashes in care until the time for interment comes. Given that we cannot gather for memorial services or interments during this time of pandemic, I'm holding the remains of the dead in my office for safekeeping. I like them here. There are 4 people's remains now on my bookshelves. They are a memento mori. They remind me that today is a gift. Rather than being morose, it reminds me that in this moment, in this hour, to live. A little while ago, someone brought the ashes of their loved one to be held in the care of the church until the time was fit for the interment. I walked to the office and spoke with our director of operations, Mike, as I often do on the day he is here during the pandemic, from 6 feet away, of course, with our masks on. I picked up the ashes to bring them back to my office, and the urn was very heavy. It was marble, wrapped in a velvet bag. Mike and I continued discussing the things that we did. There was church business, loss, a neighbor who died of COVID, what was on our hearts, and of course, more church business. And I found myself doing something peculiar. There in my casual summer workout clothes, holding this urn, I found myself rocking back and forth, holding the urn in my arms. Not unlike how I rocked my children when they were young. And it made me wonder, what can these reminders of death tell me if I'm willing to open my arms to them rather than push them away? When I do an interment at the time of committal, I say these words: to live wisely is to keep death at our side, finding some peace with the impermanent nature of life. As the living, this is our work to do. Put another way, this is essential business. As a chaplain, I learned 5 things that are the essential business of the dying. I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. Thank you. And goodbye. As I held the urn in Mike's office, I was reminded of these 5 things. Not everyone has the blessing and curse of knowing roughly when death will come, but there are only so many tomorrows. With death close at hand, it can be a reminder to tend to our essential business on the only day that we have, which is today. There is essential business of the heart and essential business of practical matters. And there are some practical matters that most everyone does not want to talk about, except your ministers. Reverend David and I are here to support our congregants at any age and any stage of life in the essential purpose of religion, to live with the knowledge that we will die. Come to us for advanced planning for medical care, ethical decisions, thinking about what you want to have happen with your belongings and assets. One of the biggest gifts you can give your loved ones is the peace of mind of knowing they are following your wishes. You don't need to have an estate to plan. The simplest of gifts and directions can mean the most. We're here to help you explore your thoughts about the dying process and what that might or might be and what might or might not come next. We're here to help you plan your memorial. And we're here to help you think about your legacy and to hold in tender care what might be on your mind. And these are tasks for everyone, although, truth be told, most people don't do them. I hope we're all blessed with a long life, but we don't know. I completed my first will in my mid-20s. Our day-to-day life is an effective amnesiac to our mortality. So often death is seen as the enemy, and for good reason. But the ultimate enemy is a life unlived, essential business left undone. Pandemic or no pandemic, whether we are far apart or close together, no matter what shops and businesses are open, the truly essential business remains the same. Say, I love you. Tell someone you forgive them. Say, I'm sorry. Say thank you. Say goodbye with every intention and hope that you'll have a hello soon thereafter. But knowing that you left no essential business undone. If we attend to the essential business of our day-to-day life, whenever that certain death comes, we may be blessed to have lived and really lived, however many days we are granted. May it be so, and amen.
Sing of living, sing of dying, let them both be joined in one, parts of an eternal process, like the ever-circling sun. From the freshness of each infant, giving hope in what is new, to the wisdom of the aged, deepened by a longer view. Open to a deeper loving, open to the gift of care, searching for a higher justice, helping others in despair. Through the tender bonds of living, in a more inclusive way, we are opened more to suffering from the losses of each day.
Must be able to do 3 things to live in this world: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your own bones, knowing your life depends upon it, and when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. May the peace that passeth understanding, the peace of love and all that is good, which the world can neither give nor take away, be among us and abide in our hearts. Go forth in peace, and amen.
Sing of living, sing of dying. Let them both be joined in one, parts of an eternal process, like the ever-circling sun.
Hello, and thank you for worshiping with us this morning at First Unitarian. I know personally, as the weeks go by and the seasons change, these Sundays that we are able to spend together are so special and mean so much, and I hope you feel the same. As you may know, by either coming to worship or looking at our online presence or our weekly emails, we are still quite busy at First Unitarian, doing all we can to keep our ministry of connection and of supporting each other going on during this time. Now, as you know, this does require financial expenses, and so we look to the support of our friends and members like yourself to help us continue doing our ministry. We know not everyone will be able to donate during this time, but we hope that those who do will be able to make either a pledge or a one-time donation to the church to keep us running and all the expenses from keeping the building continuing to run to our video editing software and online capabilities going during this time of the pandemic. If you're interested in donating, you can make a donation by going to www.firstuchicago.org and clicking on the donations button at the bottom of the page. Or you can text an amount to 773-900-6051 to use our text to give option. Again, thank you to everyone from our ministers and staff to our lay leaders who help make this church possible. And thank you to you for tuning in every Sunday and continuing to be a part of this community. May we be worthy of your gifts.